Now for a review of what's making the headlines and the papers this morning, let's bring in a rise analyst Constance Ekoko. Hi, Constance.
Hi, Tolu. Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And you?
I have to announce ahead of time that Tolu and Chuks are excited for one of the stories that we'll be taking this morning. And I also want to announce to you that Yolanda and I are ready and equal to the task. Okay, so calm down. Okay, to look at I didn't say good morning to Yolanda. How are you, Yolanda?
Good morning, Dr. Don't worry, I'm ready today. I'm ready.
Yeah, to review the papers with us this morning, we have Chuks Akunna. He is the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day. In this day today, the paper is reporting more gains on the security front. Boko Haram founder's son arrested. US, UK hail Nigeria over Ansar leader's capture. 6 Boko Haram members, including the son of Boko Haram founder Mohammed Yusuf, named Muslim Mohammed Yusuf, were arrested as confirmed by Chadian authorities. Muslim Mohammed Yusuf, also known as Abdurrahman Muhammad Abdullahi, is believed to be around 18 years and was detained with 5 other alleged militants in N'Djamena, the capital of Chad, which also is the country's largest city. Yusuf was an infant when his father was killed in 2009 here in Nigeria. Intelligence from Nigeria suggests that his cell was part of the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, and of course all this is coming on the heels of the arrest last week of other terrorist kingpins in Nigeria. Chuks, this is being seen as a significant victory for Nigeria and the sub-region. I'd like your perspective on these developments.
Yes, exactly. Like father, they say, like son. It's when there's this blogger, security blogger, Zagazula, when I first posted that story, a lot of people did not believe him. But he came up with photographs of, if you saw the photograph, the exclusive photographs of Muhammad Yusuf and the son, Muslim, striking resemblance. So, and this is happening at a time where Nigerian security intelligence agencies, particularly the DSS, arrested captured alive, terrorist kingpins in Nigeria, like you said. So it's a very huge win for, not only for Nigeria, but for the sub-region, because these guys have really made life a living hell for most Nigerians. Look at what Imam Muda, for instance, used to do in Borugu and parts of Kwara State, parts of Borugu and parts of Niger State. They were imposing levies on whole communities. Communities were made to pay taxes. They were kidnapping at will. But thank God, thankfully, they've been arrested, and the fact that they were not killed, because you see what happened in 2009 when Muslim's father was killed, was that he was killed and all the evidence, everything Nigeria needed to know about Boko Haram died with him. But in this case, it's good that the DSS and our security agencies captured this Ansar terrorist alive. So they'll be able to actually interrogate them and know what is up. And then just this morning, those guys who bombed, who attacked our church, they were facing trial this morning at Federal High Court, Abuja. So it's anyhow you look at it, it's win-win for Nigeria, and of course, like I said, for the sub-region.
Right, and we remember that the killing of Mohammed Yusuf in 2009 completely radicalized Boko Haram group, and it went downhill from there. Let's take a second story from this day newspaper. Tinubu joins world leaders in Tokyo to woo investors shape Africa's future. The occasion is the 9th edition of the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 9, with the objective of opening new trade corridors with Asian partners, multinationals, etc. What's there to say here? Many years of such similar conferences has not transformed Africa. Your reaction, Chuks?
No, well, I think it's not completely out of place to say that. I mean, it's not completely. I would say it's not completely true that this conference have not yielded desired fruits, because you see, you ask yourself, what if the president hadn't attended? We wouldn't have known what might not have happened or might have happened. Last week, President Tinubu went to Brazil and UAE, and a lot of people were asking, what are the gains, what are the gains, what are the gains? And from the grapevine, I understand that Brazil is establishing the largest meat processing factory in Africa or sub-Saharan Africa in northern part of Nigeria very soon, and that Tinubu has gone to actually sign dotted lines. And then also the UAE, for instance, has been very, very helpful to Nigeria in terms of giving us security equipment. I understand that several helicopters have been donated to Nigerian security agencies, which they were not even announced. So that's one of the gains. So President Tinubu is in Tokyo. We wouldn't, like I said, know what would have happened had he not gone there or other presidents had not gone there. We not only should be seen, but we should also be heard. And as a global voice, as a continental voice, it's good that the president of Nigeria is in such summit. It's a Tokyo African Summit, international summit. So imagine Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, were to be missing from such conferences. I mean, the consequences, like I said, will not be very, very, will leave a sour taste in the mouth. But, there are those who also argue that the president should sit back home and face brass tacks. But like, the president does not physically need to be home because, like we said, even in his absence, most of these security gains we recorded now, are done in his absence. If you delegate duties, you have competent hands, they'll deliver.
Okay, let's move on to the Punch newspaper. This is a news item that may raise eyebrows. Here, FG Moore's pay raise for political office holders. Ramfak says Tinubu's 1.5 million naira salary and ministers under 1 million naira pay low launches a revenue sharing review. The Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission has hinted at plans to review these salaries that have been described as inadequate, unrealistic, and outdated in the face of economic challenges. Chairman of Ramfak, Mohammed Shehu, was quoted as saying, "You are paying the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1.5 million naira a month with a population of over 200 million people. Everybody believes it is a joke." He continued, "You cannot pay a minister less than 1 million naira per month since 2008 and expect him to put in his best without necessarily being involved in some other things. You pay either a CBN governor or the DG 10 times more than you pay the president. This is just not right. Or you pay him 20 times higher than the Attorney General of the Federation. That is absolutely not right." End of quote. Now, several takes on this story. The salaries, they do seem low in today's economy. However, salaries of the average Nigerian have remained stagnant too. Secondly, timing is everything. With the paucity of funds, budget deficit, very high recurrent expenditure, this may be a bad timing. And the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, also boasted that her family is rich and they do not need Nigeria's money. So it may be wise to leave that, pity party for the president at the door for now. Your reaction on this? Anybody, Tolu, you can jump in.
Well, it's like it's stating the obvious. You want to ask why they're not leading by example, because Nigerians are really hungry. If you're in a privileged place, you don't then lose empathy because you're privileged. If you have a good paying job, you then don't become insensitive to the plight of other people. Most Nigerians are suffering. That's the truth. So you see people on the road every day looking for jobs. You see people on the roads at the bus stops trying to get the decent transport. They can't even afford decent meals. So we understand that on the other side that the president is working on reforms to make the economy better. But then, while all that is going on, what about coping mechanisms? What about measures to help the people cope with the pains of building and rebuilding the economy? And then, what do not want to start talking about or looking at is increasing the salaries of public office holders. I don't think it's the right time. It's quite insensitive, and something must be done fast to make sure that this doesn't happen again. This is not the first time they're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then this time around, they should be more sensitive.
Okay, we'll have to talk about the minimum wage too. So everybody is impacted in Nigeria. The New Telegraph this morning: judicial compromise likely when executive gives judges vehicles, houses, according to AITITMG. They say dictating financial operational autonomy undermine independence. So Amnesty International, Transparency International, and Transition Monitoring Group insist that separation of powers and independence is necessary for the different organs of government, and they said this strengthens democracy. I mean, this goes without saying. We've had debates about this in the past. The only problem is action is yet to be taken to change this pattern. Yolanda, if you want to come in here, I mean, this assessment is accurate or correct. If there is lack of financial autonomy for different arms of government, you can get, you know, such inducements or possibility of that.
Well, the practice of gifting in itself, when it comes to government or organizations, is viewed very differently by different people. For some, it is viewed as appreciation, and while others, it's viewed as a form of subtle bribery. We've spoken about a few reports in the past with similar stories that had this, but I think the only way to fix this would actually be to put it in policy, so that it becomes something that is written and in writing that this should not be done. Because if someone is just saying that this form of gifting is wrong, it just sounds like an emotional sentiment. It sounds like an emotional rant. That's the truth of how it sounds on the surface. But if it's something that is put, which many organizations do as well, especially international organizations, they have an outright policy that says we are not allowed to receive gifts. Even when you bring Christmas hampers, there are organizations that reject them and say we are not allowed to receive this. So until something like that is put in writing, it will just sound like an emotional back and forth. And also, I am more on the side of the rejection of these gifts, because I don't think that it's a good idea. There are other ways to encourage support, to motivate. And I don't think gift giving of this manner, a house, a car, or things that are quite significant in cost, are appropriate.
Constance,
Yes.
I also think there's for a long time there's been a deliberate attempt by the executive to pocket the judiciary, and it's quite unfair, quite sad, you know, very depressing. You know, because he will, he will pays the piper costs the tune. So if you encourage this type of gifting, especially between the executive and the judiciary, then it's going to be very difficult for the judiciary to maintain its autonomy. Yeah.
In some climes, you are required to declare, you know, whatever gift is offered to you. But also, some would say that, excuse me, when you come to Nigeria, a lot of the government officials are paid very lowly. The pay is very poor, and the conditions of service are also poor, and you don't have basic amenities. So for instance, you don't even have decent accommodation, a decent car to take you to work. So that's why this is happening. So the point then is that you have to do a total review and provide basic amenities for people, so that they are not in a position to compromise. All right, Vanguard newspaper, this is the story we've been waiting for, so hold your breath. Paternity crisis, 1 in 4 Nigerian fathers are not biological parents, according to this report. A new report by Smart DNA Nigeria say 1 in 4 paternity tests conducted in the country returns negative. Also, 25% of paternity tests conducted between July 2024 and June 2025 showed that the presumed fathers were not biologically related to the children. There's more. Immigration-related DNA testing, that's JAPA, surged as families seek documentation for relocation. Furthermore, firstborn children, especially sons, were significantly more likely to have negative paternity test results, with firstborn boys recording a staggering 64% exclusion rate for higher than later-born siblings. I mean, JAPA obviously has unearthed a tsunami. I bet the families involved will wish these secrets do not come to light. But now we have a tool to determine who is who, Chooks. Actually, Yolanda, do you want to jump in? Okay, Chooks or Yolanda, yeah. But we have to be brief.
No,
yeah.
it's a very tragic report.
Yeah.
It's a very heartbreaking report. But you know, like we said, it's not that it's new. It's nothing new. But then, because of this JAPA syndrome, a lot of people are going to do tests. You know, because if you're going to before now, people did not require to have all these tests because there was no need for that. But now people are doing that. And, you know, like in Igbo culture, we have this way of women, you know, protecting their own. When a child is born, they say, he looks so much like the father. He looks so much like the father. So that just in case, by adventure, the father has had any doubts, you know, then they didn't have DNA tests. So the man is made to believe that this child is his child. But it's a very, very worrying situation. And I think social media, too, has also not helped in this instance. A lot of women who ordinarily should be dedicated wives or brides to be, you know, because of the things of this world, as they say, you know, they get carried away and play what they call away games.
Away games.
Yes.
Yeah. Yolanda, did you have a comment?
Yeah, you know what's even?
I know you want to.
Yeah. Too quickly.
What's even more worrisome is that this 20% we're talking about is the result that we can see. Also, rather 25%, one in every 4, 25%. You know, that's staggering. 25%. You know, that's even the ones we can. These are the ones we can see. What about the ones cheating on their husbands, whose results haven't come out because there hasn't been any need for these tests? You know, so it's quite alarming, and I wonder why a number of Nigerian women are turning this way.
I'm sure Yolanda.
Let me jump in there and say this. I wouldn't completely put the blame on Nigerian women. In fact, I won't put the blame on anyone. It is shared equally. Everybody has their place in this entire thing. You know, before we started talking about this, Chuks mentioned something that was quite jarring to me. And he says that it's only women that are able to, you know, through having children, that you have the receipt, proof of infidelity. There's no proof of infidelity from the men. There's no way to know what they've been doing. So for the woman, unfortunately, having children, and whether it's by your you know, partner or by somebody else, is unfortunately the receipt to all of this. But you know, at the end of the day, Dr. Constance, what this report also states is that 25% of the people that have been tested, that is what it said. It didn't say everybody in Nigeria. So that's something we also have to keep in the front of our mind.
As consolation.
Right.
Exactly.
We can continue later, but we have to go now. Let's move on to the next story. Daily Sun, US, UK, CAN or CAN commend FG NSA over arrest of terror kingpins. What I would like to focus on the rider, which says U.S. releases new visa guidelines for Nigeria. The U.S. Embassy now requires 5 years social media history for visa appointments and has revoked 6,000 student visas. This is across the U.S.
Wow.
In response, the federal government says it will reciprocate this new policy. The visas revoked were for overstays and law violations, and some of them are for students who protested against Israel. I mean, the Nigerian government does need to put together an appropriate response to these new policies. Every country deserves the right to protect its borders and sovereignty. The only problem is that when it comes to Africans that try to do that, there's all sorts of interventions, interference that undermine, exploit, and, you know, fuel political instability for external gain. So, you know, certain leaders are backed, certain policies that are pushed. And then at the end of the day, you know, African states are severely weakened and threatened and become dependent on other countries. And this partly accounts for the exodus that we are seeing, you know, today, because, you know, the countries are severely threatened and weakened. I don't know, we don't have time to discuss that. So let's see other papers. Vanguard newspaper, FG vows equal response as U.S. tightens visa rules. We've seen that. And then here, 2.2 million poor households to receive FG's cash transfer, according to Minister. Atiku Obi Amechi will stay united without presidential ticket, according to the ADC. We also have this morning the Guardian newspaper. Actually, I was reading another paper. So Leadership newspaper, 69,376 registered on Thursday. So we're having the registration for election, so go and register if you haven't done that. We also have Daily Trust this morning. Daily Trust, yes, where's Daily Trust? Okay, yeah, Sokoto boat mishap, 3 family members, 23 others missing. And then Daily Independent, Nigerians to provide 5-year social media activity, according to the U.S. Embassy. We've seen that. And then indigenous contractors accuse federal government of favoring foreign companies. And in Ondo, It says the state is under siege of kidnappers and ritual killers. The international headlines this morning, Daily Graphic, Ghana begins legal timber export under new EU legal framework. The first 5 Ghanaian companies have been given certificates to export to the European Union market under the Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade Licensing regime. Hopefully the forests are also protected. The Citizen newspaper, Lasufi's pricey license plates. Civil rights group AfriForum is demanding transparency as it appeals for cost disclosure and effectiveness data on the new anti-fraud GP number plate system. Lastly, the Times newspaper, still on Ukraine and Russia. Trump offers very good Kyiv security guarantee. And then if we go to the Sun newspaper, it leads with a rather light-hearted headline. Suited, not booted. This refers to the more cordial relations between President Trump and President Zelensky yesterday, after that first feisty encounter earlier in the year. Remember that Zelensky was given a public dress down, and the Vice President J.D. Vance had asked him why he was not wearing a suit. Well, yesterday, he was wearing a suit and he talked less and seemed less confrontational. Yolanda, it seemed a productive meeting, although the Europeans are still pushing for a ceasefire, which hangs in the balance.
Absolutely, you know, suited and not booted. That's a very interesting play on words. This is a very different meeting than what you'd have seen with Trump and Putin late last week. And with this, you know, everybody was so vocal. The journalists were asking their questions. But if you remember with the Putin meeting, even when journalists were shouting out questions, asking about the ceasefire, he even indicated to his ear that he couldn't hear what they were saying or what they were asking and completely ignored everything. And this one is different. You're looking at the pictures that are from this meeting, and Zelensky is smiling, Trump is smiling. But the truth is, it's really difficult times for Ukraine. It's really hard to come and face Trump in this way over and over again, and nothing seems to be yielding at the moment. I think the only positive thing is that the European nations are really coming forward and backing up Zelensky and, you know, really pushing for this ceasefire. So I'm hoping that in the weeks to come, you know, there was that hot mic moment where it was leaked that Trump was expressing to Macron that there's a possible bilateral conversation that's going to happen with the US involved. Hopefully that will yield some positive results.
Well, there's supposed to be a trilateral. If yesterday's meeting, you know, was a success. Okay, the other papers that have that same story, the Independent, Zelensky, we are ready for talks, you know, with Trump and Putin. We also have the I newspaper and the Guardian. Finally, Trump, no need for ceasefire to secure Ukraine peace deal. And finally, metro.co.uk, warning at Slick Med's sites cash in. UK's 5,000 fake online pharmacies. Unbelievable. Scammers sell deadly pesticide or animal pills as real thing and steal customers' data. These sophisticated fake pharmacies are selling dangerous drugs to people in the UK, putting lives at risk, investigations say. It goes on to say that cyber criminals harvest people's data while, you know, selling fake drugs. It might be Ozempic or Viagra or whatever. What an investigation. Even in the UK, cyber criminals are everywhere. We have to call it a wrap. Chuks Akona, who is the executive director of Authority newspaper. It's good to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Tolu Ojeumi. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikwoku, for joining us on the newspaper review and driving that for us today. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.